Well, good afternoon and thank you very much for joining us. I just want to ask you this question. How well are you prepared for your retirement? You see, whether you like it or not, at some point, you have to retire from what you are doing. And that includes me. At some point, I must retire out of this position. And so the question comes, how well are you prepared for your retirement? At whatever age that is going to come, but the fact of the matter is, it is going to come. Your retirement must and is going to come. And so, are you prepared to handle this? And I just want to impart some knowledge that was imparted to me by an old friend. And he told me, the moment you get your first paycheck, you start planning for your last paycheck. Yeah, that was like 20 years ago, or more. But here we are. So this afternoon on Inside Government, we just want to have a look at the retirement or planning for retirement. That's right. And you see, John Molly is an actuarial scientist, and he's also the Assistant Director for Supervision at the Retirement Benefit Authority. RBA is the market regulator. And we were having a conversation here, and I was asking him, what is the status of pension here in Kenya? And he gave me some very interesting facts. He told me that in Africa, we are rated as number 2 with the biggest pension industry. This is after South Africa. And I was asking him why, and this is what he told me. John, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And of course, we're looking forward for good insights. I just want you to paint to us, how would you describe the state of pension industry here in Kenya?
Thank you very much, O'Brien. I think before I take that question, allow me to say hello to all our viewers from wherever they are and bring greetings from our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Charles Mashira, and the entire Retirement Benefits Authority fraternity. Yeah, so RBA, we are the industry regulator, as you correctly pointed out, the pensions industry regulator. We are a government parastatal established through an Act of Parliament of 1997. We came into existence in the year 2000, and therefore we've been around for the last 24 to 25 years. In the course of this time, our key mandate, which is very explicit in the Act that established the regulator, is that number 1, we are there to regulate and supervise the pensions industry. The second mandate, which is very important, and that informs why we are here today, is to develop the industry, and we do that through different initiatives. And I believe today we are going to explore further on some of those initiatives that we've come up with. Yeah, and then finally, we are there to protect the interest of members who join retirement schemes and employers who are willing to register into retirement schemes. And finally, we are there as a government organization to ensure that we implement government policy on all matters relating to pensions. So you've asked an interesting question. What has been the key milestones in the last 24 years that we've been in existence? Yeah, so we have seen a lot of growth. In the year 2000, when we came in, the total coverage of the pension sector as a percentage of the labor force was about 12%. Over those years, we have seen it grow to 26%. Which for us is quite a commendable achievement. However, as a regulator, we aspire to get to a bigger statistic than that one. And we have these many initiatives that we are trying to drive so that we can grow that number. In terms of the asset value, when we came in, the total asset for the whole industry was below 100 billion Kenya shillings. Over those 24 years, we have seen it grow to, last year we reported about 2 trillion Kenya shillings in terms of the total assets that belong to the 26% of Kenyans in the labor force. Then finally, we exist to register retirement schemes. We have registered about over 1,000 retirement pension schemes. These schemes are supported by experts who we call service providers, and we have registered about 90 service providers. Yeah, so we've seen a lot of growth, and we attribute that to the efforts that the team has put in and the industry at large. Yeah.
Thank you for giving us that historical perspective, but I just want to find out from you, you came into existence back in 2000, so you're talking about 24 now, almost going to 25 years. The coverage was about 12%.
Correct.
This has grown now to 26%.
Correct.
So you're looking at a growth of about 14% basis points.
Correct.
Would you classify this as good growth?
It is good growth because when he came in, there were a lot of challenges. The industry needed someone to show them the direction that we were taking, and therefore when he came in, we took some time to be able to regulate and set in place structures and mechanisms to be able to direct the industry. So that took us some time. By the time when we were really getting into the actual job, that was about five years down the line. And therefore, I would say that 14% growth in the last, say, 20 years or less, it's something that is worth to smile about. However, we have a very ambitious target. In the next 5 years, we have a strategic plan that we launched last year. We have a very ambitious target to grow that number to over 32%.
32%?
In the next 5 years, yeah. Yeah.
In the 32%?
Yeah.
And so for you to grow from 26% to 36%, you must be having strategies in place that will help in this growth.
That's true.
What kind of strategies do you have in place?
Thank you very much. In our strategic plan, and we actually launched also in the same forum, we launched the retirement benefits policy.
Yes.
The government has realized
that was last year?
Last year,
in May.
sometimes in August last year.
August.
The government has realized that we have a key sector that has not been very well captured, and that is the informal sector. Over the last 24 years, we have really focused on the formal sector. Most of the initiatives that we have driven have targeted the formal sector, and therefore we want to change the direction now. We really want to focus on the informal sector, and we are seeing that that's a big area for growth. And we'll be talking about some of those initiatives today. We are talking about tax matters today, and those are one of the initiatives that we have really tried to push for. To get a break from the government in the last 10 or even up to 20 years. And we are glad that finally the government has agreed and given us some tax incentives that we can use to incentivize members in the informal sector to join retirement schemes. There are also efforts by government. Government is coming up with schemes that target informal sector. A good example of a scheme that we call K-Nest, which is at the National Treasury. That's a very good initiative so that we can be able to reach to the informal sector, plus many other initiatives that we may not be able to discuss today. Yeah.
I'll be coming back to K-Nest. I know the National Treasury is in the process of operationalizing that institution. They are yet to form a board, and plus the personnel that are going to be in charge of that. But I still want to find out from you, when you look at the informal sector, it accounts for the majority of the workforce here in Kenya.
Correct.
I mean, when you look at the workforce, almost 80% of these people are in the informal sector. Their contribution to Kenya's economy is almost 90%.
That's true.
And so this is a significant market that cannot be left out. But we've been having challenges with the pension schemes in this country, with very high numbers of unremitted contributions. And so you want to reach out to the informal sector to join the pension schemes. What are you going to tell them about the issues of non-remittance of contributions?
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very good question and a very relevant one. Yes, it is true that one of the challenges that we've been experiencing as a regulator is the issue of unremitted contributions. This is where an employer has promised to make certain contribution rates on a monthly basis, but they're not able to do that for certain reasons. As a regulator, we've come up with initiatives, including changing certain provisions of law so that we can enforce compliance by these institutions. And therefore, the people in the informal sector, I want to promise them that as a regulator, we've set up mechanisms in place to ensure that where you remit your money, because in an informal setup, it's very flexible. You decide how much you want to contribute based on your affordability, and where you remit that money, as a regulator, we can commit that we exist to ensure that that money is safeguarded and it's protected up to the time when you come to access it.
And when you look at the issue of non-remittance of contributions, I mean, first of all, we must clarify this. It is illegal.
That's true.
Not to remit contributions for members. And so the law, the RBA Act, gives the Retirement Benefit Authority powers to surcharge institutions that are not remitting, and in some cases to take legal, to pursue legal avenues for companies, for individuals who are not remitting these contributions. Then how did we end up with unremitted contributions running into billions of shillings?
Thank you, Brian. Another very important question. So how this has come to be is that a retirement scheme is a voluntary establishment by an employer, and this applies to many of those organizations, with the exception of the NSSF, the National Social Security Fund. And therefore, as a regulator, yes, we have powers in law. We have enforced those powers, I can confirm. We have taken legal action against trustees and employers who have not managed to remit contributions to a retirement scheme. But most of the times, before we go to that extent of taking legal action, we always want to engage and discuss and have consultations amongst ourselves and see how we can resolve those challenges. Some of the solutions that we've actually come up with in the past and they've actually worked is things like restructuring of schemes. For example, if you have a scheme which is a bit complex, maybe the contribution requirements are a bit high on the company and circumstances change, financial position has changed and the company is not able to support, we've come up with mechanisms where those companies can actually adjust their contributions to some amounts that they're able to sustain in a longer term. So there are those initiatives. We have explored them. Some of them have worked. So others have not worked very well. We have even proposed, one of the most recent changes is for schemes and trustees to be empowered to appoint KRA as an agent to be able to recover contributions that the employers have not remitted. So yes, it's been a challenge, but we have seen a lot of improvement, and we think that in the near future, it's no longer going to be a big challenge for the industry.
In terms of absolute figures, how much remains unremitted to pension schemes?
As per our last reports, because we normally report to the National Treasury, being our parent ministry, as per our last reports, the figure was slightly above 60 billion Kenya shillings.
60
billion Kenya shillings for all the monies that have not been remitted.
And this dates back to how many years?
I would attribute this to a period of about 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years.
So within quite a short duration.
And between the public and the private sector, who is affected most?
The public sector.
The public sector.
Yeah, so we see this challenge more in the public sector.
Why is that the case?
Sometimes because of financial constraints within these organizations. At one point they're doing
but they are deducting
financially. Other times they're not. Some companies sometimes even struggle to pay other statutory deductions, including taxes and even salaries. Sometimes they even defer.
Salary you may understand, but deductions, because this is money that you deducted from my salary, which is supposed to go to NSSF, it's supposed to go to this pension scheme, it's supposed to do ABCD.
Correct.
So why would you have a challenge with remitting this?
To be honest with you, it's something that even us as a regulator, we are trying to understand, because we've even come to the realization that most of the times salary allocation tends to be provided by the government. So it's not something that it tends to get to these institutions, the salary allocation, but where the remittances, the statutory remittances, not just pension, even other remittances that are supposed to be paid by these organizations, sometimes they struggle to pay them. And therefore, that's
why are you using the word struggle?
Because it is the truth.
Why is the struggle here? I mean, help me understand. Where is the struggle here?
For them not remitting the money to...
because, I mean, I'm supposed to pay you 20 shillings.
Correct.
3 shillings is for statutory deductions. I deduct that, and so I give you 17 shillings. So where is the struggle in remitting the 3 shillings?
To be honest with you, the 3 shillings should be there. Should be there to
it should be remitted.
It should be remitted to the scheme. And therefore, a few years back, 4 or 5 years back, we amended the law to give us powers to be able to instruct these organizations which are deducting and not remitting, that they freeze the deductions, such that if, for example, an employer X is deducting money and that money is not getting to the scheme, the authority can take action and instruct them to stop the deductions. Because if you are deducting and not remitting, why would you not just stop? And I can confirm we've actually taken that action.
You have thousands of people who have retired and who are going to retire. But they're going to retire despite the fact that they have been contributing to their pension schemes, on a monthly basis. They end up retiring without anything in their pocket because the money was never remitted in the first place. What is your message to these pensioners?
So for the people who are retiring, one of the mechanisms that we've come up with is that as an employer, for the employees who are still in service, you can give us a plan to pay their remittances within a given period of time. The law allows between 3 to 6 years. But for the people who are retiring, the law mandates you to be able to pay their dues at the point of exit. So it is unexpected that you would have
But this is not happening in some cases, huh?
exiting.
Do they have any legal reprieve?
Yes, absolutely. So
what should they do?
Thank you very much. So in case that happens to an employee who has exited an employment, the first reprieve is to approach the Retirement Benefits Authority. We license these schemes, we supervise them, we ensure that they're supposed to comply with the law. So you come to RBA, you lodge a complaint with us. We have mechanisms where you can use to launch the complaint. You don't have to travel to Nairobi. You can access our website and lodge a complaint, or you can even send us an email through our
Do you have regional offices?
email. No, we don't have regional offices. We only have one office in Nairobi.
Are you planning to open county offices?
We are exploring opening centers at Huduma centers so that we can be able to reach out to the masses.
Centers.
Yes. But as at now, we have really embraced technology. So we have mechanisms where these members can get in touch with us from wherever they are throughout the country. So you can approach RBA, report to us if you have such case of unpayment from a retirement scheme. We'll take up the matter, and we are supposed to give you a resolution within a period of maximum period of 30 days.
30 days?
Yes.
They're supposed to have a resolution?
Yeah.
And what would that resolution look like?
Most of the times includes us demanding that the companies which have not remitted them making those those remittances.
Do they?
Most of them do. Most of them do. In some unfortunate cases, you would have cases of delays, and that now would escalate to us. Summoning them for meetings, we have discussions and try to find out where the challenges actually are. Yes.
Let's now turn on to the tax, the Amendment Act that came into force in December last year.
Yeah.
RBA is banking on these tax reforms to drive up numbers. Help us understand how the Tax Amendment Act of 2024 is going to help in the growth of a pension industry in Kenya.
Thank you very much, O'Brien. And I think for the benefit of our viewers, you will allow me a few minutes to just explain what those amendments were. So last year, in December, the government came up with what we call the Tax Amendments Act of 2024. This Amendment Act was a very bold move by the government from the pension industry perspective in the following ways. Employees are now able to contribute to a retirement scheme tax-free. Their money is invested in that scheme, and you get investment income tax-free. And finally, when you come to access the benefits, you're also able to access it tax-free. So what those provisions allowed for is in the 4 phases. The first phase is that at the point of contributions, previously in a retirement scheme, you can contribute up to 20,000 Kenya shillings per month, which is tax-free. And therefore, you save on your taxation, because that 20,000 shilling, when it goes to the scheme, it's not taxed. So the government has increased that number. It has been there for the longest time, I think over the last 10 years or so. So that has since been increased to 30,000 Kenya shillings per month. And therefore, there was an adjustment by the government to reflect inflation in the last couple of years. What we anticipate that to do is, number one, for the people who are not members of a retirement scheme, they now have an option to be able to join a scheme and make some contributions tax-free. So we expect it will act as an incentive for them to be able to join a retirement scheme, as opposed to maybe other investment products that are available in the market. For the people who are members of a retirement scheme and maybe were contributing an amount that is less than 30,000 Kenya shillings, they now have an incentive to contribute much more, so that they can save much more on taxation, and that will increase their disposable income. So members of retirement schemes can contribute more. If you're not a member of a retirement scheme, you can now join a scheme and be able to make contributions tax-free. The second phase of it is that it now allows members to access their retirement benefits tax-free. And if you ask me, as an actuary, that's a very important move by the government. Very few countries have that regime where you have exemption, exemption, exemption. So we have finally gotten to that regime, and it's a game changer to the pensions industry. So what this means is that if you've been a member of a retirement scheme for at least 20 years, then you'll be able to access all your retirement benefits tax-free.
Tax-free.
If you've attained the retirement age as well, then you are also able to access your retirement benefits tax-free. And in case you fall sick while still in employment, because it does happen, sometimes you see employees getting sick in employment, and unfortunately they have to exit employment. So in case you're accessing your retirement benefits on sickness grounds, you are also paid those benefits tax-free. Now, this has not left out a bigger chunk of employees who are on contract. Employees who are on contract and paid gratuities, they're able to remit their gratuities to a registered retirement scheme and enjoy the same tax breaks that the other permanent and pensionable employees are receiving. Now, the other phase of it, the third phase of it, is that we have in RBA, we launched what we call post-retirement medical funds in 2018. Now, these are products that enable employees to put in some additional savings so that when they retire, in addition to their income, they have a medical cover. We have realized that through our research, we have realized that medical cover in retirement is extremely critical. And therefore, we have come up with an arrangement where you can actually put in some additional money in a post-retirement medical fund. And when you retire, you'll approach an insurance company and you'll have the finances that you require to purchase that medical cover. So for those post-retirement medical funds, they have also been granted an exemption by the government. You can contribute up to 15,000 Kenya shillings per month, tax-free. So in total,
for your medical insurance? For
your medical insurance. So in total, Brian, if you are a member of a retirement scheme and you also opt to join a post-retirement medical fund, you can contribute in a month up to 45,000 Kenya shillings.
Which will be tax-free.
Which will be tax-free to you. And then finally, the last provision is that previously retirement schemes would come to RBA for registration. If you are an employer, you want to register a retirement scheme, you'd approach RBA for registration. But for you to get these tax exemptions that we are talking about, you'd be required to approach KRA for another registration process, which would take quite some time. And therefore, this has been simplified by the government. Right now, if you approach RBA for a registration certificate and we give you one, that is deemed to be sufficient. So you don't have to approach KRA, and therefore the government is trying to really simplify the process to be able to promote retirement savings in this country. Yeah.
And so you expect that with all these now tax benefits,
yes,
many people are going to jump on board to take advantage of the tax holidays.
Correct.
What if it doesn't?
It's unlikely not to happen because for a rational person, let's talk about a rational person. For a rational person, if you have investment options, you have one option where you invest your money at the end of the period, the government is going to take some money back in form of taxation. And you have another option, which is a retirement scheme, which you can put in the same amount of money in an individual pension scheme, which I said is very flexible for the people in the informal sector. You determine how much you want to contribute. So you put in your savings in that retirement fund, and then when you come to access, you are given the same amount of money tax-free. So we do anticipate, probably what is now on our side as a regulator and the industry stakeholders is to do a lot of sensitizations. So the public can start appreciating what these benefits are and what the Tax Amendment Act of 2024 actually meant.
Help us understand this. I mean, for the informal sector, I mean, who are not members of any pension scheme.
Yes. Why are they out of any pension scheme today? Thank you very much. So for the people in the informal sector, most of the times, if you're self-employed, you join in a scheme would be a voluntary arrangement. Most of the times it's based on whether you have additional income to save. Some other times it could be based on the availability of information. Are you aware that there are actually products that you can actually save in? And as a regulator, we have really been trying to do a lot of outreach programs to tell them that these programs actually exist. Because my understanding from my many interactions with the people out there in the informal sector, the level of know-how or knowledge for them, it's a bit low. And therefore, we just need to do much more work to sensitize them and tell them that we actually have products that they can enroll into. And of course, the question that they would ask is, why would I want to join that arrangement while I have a SACCO, for example, that I'm putting my money into? And the message that we are saying today is that now the government has given you some additional incentives if you are a member of a scheme. The way I see it as an actuary is actually government making its own contributions to your kitty. Because otherwise they would have actually taxed you and taken that money from you. But they're saying, we don't want this money, you remain with it, and therefore government in a way is contributing some portion of money.
John, as we wind up this conversation, I also want to hear this from you. I mean, many people, actually, majority of people, they know and they understand that there is the National Social Security Fund, NSSF,
correct,
which has been there for many years,
correct,
where people contribute, is it 200 shillings?
Right now it has gone up. There was a new act which was started implementation 2-3 years back, and therefore the contribution rates have actually significantly
they have gone up.
Yeah.
So for anybody who would want to increase their contributions to NSSF, what are they supposed to do?
Thank you very much. I think I've been looking at the NSSF website. I even looked at it today. They have a portal where you are able to register as a new member. So you just click.
I'm talking about an existing member who has been paying the mandatory fees. I think it's 1,700 or something like that.
Yes.
If I want to increase this to, let's say, to 10,000 shillings, so that I can benefit from the tax holidays, what am I supposed to do? You
can actually do it. You just start remittance. Because if you are in the informal sector, this was voluntary. You enroll in there, you join maybe on a voluntary basis. The amount that you're contributing, you also decided it. So you going up, it's something that you also decide, and to just continue making remittances. Once you make the remittance, it reflects in your account. It's just like a bank account. You pay through M-Pesa or whichever channel you used to pay, then immediately it reflects on your account. And maybe you can be going to receive statements from NSSF. But O'Brien, let me just make a remark before we move out of that subject. So we have what we call individual retirement benefit schemes that we have registered as RBA. So if there is a member who would opt for another arrangement, which may not be NSSF, they also have a room to go to our website, which is www.rba.go.ke, and be able to access the list of registered individual retirement schemes. They are called individual because they are for individuals. It is you as John making that decision. You sign up and you start making contributions.
Very good.
Yes.
In 30 seconds, what else do we need to know?
Thank you very much. In 30 seconds, I would wish to just mention that the government has also come up with a self-registration portal for the retirees who are former employees of the mainstream government. That includes teachers, civil servants, police, military, state officers. So if you are any pensioner who is outside there and you are receiving a pension from the consolidated fund through the government, then there is a drive that is going on from the National Treasury for you to register so that you continue to be on pension. And therefore, as a regulator, in as much as we wanted to sensitize you on tax amendments today, we also want to remind you for you to take advantage of that drive that is going on. If you're also a beneficiary, maybe you are a child or a spouse of a deceased former government officer, kindly go to your nearest Huduma Center or go to the e-Citizen platform and be able to register so that you are able to continue receiving your benefits. This exercise ends on 28th February 2025, so next month, and therefore it's very important you exercise that option. We would really want you to continue beyond pension. Asante sana.
John Muli, thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon, and of course for sharing with us those critical insights on retirement.
Thank you so much.
You see, I mean, if you haven't started any retirement plan, I mean, you had better start now. Actually, you are late, because retirement is a must. Regardless of how precious your job is or how valued you are at your workplace, you must retire at some point. And so you must start planning for your sunset years. O'Brien Kimani is my name. Thank you very much indeed for joining us right here on Inside Government. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.